the framework thinking that we're going to be talking about is, how are we setting up in digital commons to accommodate audiovisual material? Obviously, we're going to be working in book galleries, right? Book galleries are the ones that can accommodate any file type, and they give us our nice little thumbnail displays. But when we're setting up for hosting audiovisual materials within a book gallery, the main thing that I've always thought about and what I talk with my IR meeting groups with is focus on the main object. So what is the main thing that when people land on this page that they're going to be looking at? I have two examples here. We have the Donald R. Minks interview. He was the band director for A-State bands for many, many, many years, much beloved. And we have this incredible oral history with him. So the main thing when you get to his page that we want you to focus on is the actual audio file, right? And then we also have tons and tons of archival news footage. For example, Jimmy Carter campaigning in Jonesboro. And obviously the first thing that we want you to see and focus on when you get to that page is that video clip. So once we know what exactly we want our main focus to be, then we've got to start thinking about the metadata. And we've decided for us, and it might be different for you, but we've decided that we want to go more at an informative level rather than an explanatory level. So the bottom abstract is from one of our ETDs, and it has so many words that mean something to somebody, but not very much to me. But we've decided that because this is an audiovisual collection for all of our AV collections, we want to be very descriptive, because the whole point is for you to either listen to the oral history or to watch the clip and then to make those decisions and deductions on yourself. So in many ways, we approach this with archival thinking. Finding aids are not, finding aids are very informative and to the point. You do not put judgments on there or anything. That's for the researcher to decide, right? So the other thing is that we really want to have consistency with both our style and field. So think about if every time you open a newspaper, the fonts were all over the place, the titles were all different, like they have consistent styles throughout the newspaper when you look at them, or throughout a magazine. We want to kind of replicate that when you're looking through our AV collections, you know what to expect. The title is going to give you that quick snapshot. The description is going to give you that quick, informative description. All of the other metadata fields are going to give you that baseline information, but then the focus is still on that main object. So speaking of metadata, in case you didn't know, the search in digital commons is relevancy-based. So those keywords that you put in and anything else that you enter in, the more times that a word appears, the higher it will appear in the search results. And that's really important because a lot of times our library search and discovery layer might operate differently, right? And sometimes when you're looking at how your library discovery layer works, you want to have more variety and you want to try to hit as many different types of searches that people might look for. They might look for college athletics or football or college sports. And so you want to try to hit a wide variety, right? But in digital commons, the more times that it says football, if somebody's looking up football, that's what they're going to find. So repetition is good. And then I also strongly suggest adding in subject headings. That way you have some controlled language to help organize all of these items. And then also remember that not all of these metadata fields have to be visible. So like we have a ton of subject heading fields and whatnot that are on there, but that our patrons never actually see. Also, I love this little lizard. He's just hilarious. And then you have your supplemental files. And for us on the accessibility side, it's very important. We also have university standards that anytime that we have a video file being posted, there have to be captions. So we try to then also have those captions available as a text file that people can just download in case they don't want to actually watch the whole thing. If we have an audio only, then we make sure that there is a transcript available. And then we also will sometimes have other related documents like a tape log or a subject guide, or if there was maybe an article that was posted or created as a result of this that we link to. So think about your supplemental files and how they can add to the experience of someone who's looking at this audiovisual material. If you don't know, TXT is a K-pop group. But keep in mind, your supplemental files are not part of the full text search. So if the main file that you're adding is a PDF, that adds into your full text search. But if it is just a supplemental file, it does not add into that full text search. So what we've done to help with those supplemental files, not that it adds to the search, but just to help with making sure that people have proper documentations and citations, is that we actually take one of those auto-generated PDF pages, the cover pages, and we put that in front of all of the supplemental files. So if somebody is downloading the transcript from one of our oral histories, they'll have that initial cover page that contains all of the citation information, and that way it's right there, it's quick and easy, and that way, they'll know where it came from, hopefully. Which also feeds into, of course, accessibility. She is the moment, right? We're all talking about accessibility all the time. As I said, our university standards mean that we have to have burned in captions for any videos that we put up, which is cool. And we also try to provide those time-stamped transcripts as well. However, as many of you also probably have, more stuff than you can feasibly deal with in a reasonable amount of time. One of our major collections that we have here is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of archival news footage from the 70s and 80s that our local news station just had these tons and tons of reels, and they were going to be thrown into a dumpster, and they said, "Hey, do you guys want these?" And we said, "Yes, actually we do." And fortunately, the previous university archivist got a grant. They've been digitized, super cool, but now they've just been sitting there. Like, no one's been able to access them. So Earl Bell, if you didn't know, I don't know why you wouldn't know, but he was an Olympian for high jump and I think pole vaulting from A-State. And then if you don't recognize the bottom guy, then it's Bill Clinton. So because we have such a massive amount of material, but we want to make it accessible in the best way possible, we decided, okay, we're going to run all of this stuff through an AI to generate transcripts, and then we're going to go back and actually make sure that these transcripts are correct. Because if you remember, I said all of this stuff is from the 70s, 80s, and even into the 90s. And it's all people who have lived in the Arkansas Delta for their entire lives, which is a very unique Ozark regional dialect, okay? So my favorite example of this is we had a guy in an oral history, and he's talking about timber. He's worked in timber his whole life. In the 20s, 30s, and 40s, he harvested timber. And I'm looking through this transcript, and all of a sudden he's talking about cement blocks. And I'm like, why is he talking about cement blocks? You can't harvest cement blocks. So I went back and listened to it, and what he was saying was persimmon blocks, that they would harvest persimmon blocks of wood in order to make golf clubs. So we landed on Rev because it handled our regional dialect that we have the best, but it is not fantastic, and none of them will be fantastic. And another note on that is that we also decided to be as historically accurate with these materials as possible, and there is no AI that I have found that will actually put in curse words, slurs, or anything else. So be mindful of that when you are looking through whichever service you're going to get, whether free, paid, or whatnot. Which I know we also had some people talk about Rev previously. The thing that we also really liked about Rev is that multiple people can be logged into the same account at the same time. So you can just pay for like 3 accounts and have lots of people working on stuff. I didn't tell you that. But as I was saying, it's incredibly important that you still have be human reviewed. And I'm actually very excited. We have a class collaboration coming up with one of our history professors where her students will actually be reviewing and going through these oral histories and working on the transcripts, and then we're going to work with them to create a digital exhibit. So maybe next year I'll talk with you about that. So, big question, have you used AI in any capacity for your accessibility work? Because one of the big considerations that we had is that we're in a unique position that we own the copyright to all of this news footage. So we didn't want to put it into an AI that was going to take it all and keep it. So that was part of our considerations when we were going through how much we could reasonably keep. Yes, it has been handy. Yeah, and honestly, that I expect to see no, can't for any reason. I do expect to see that perhaps increase. I know that the state of Arkansas has already made some legislation about what state employees can and cannot do with AI. And that applies to us as a public university. And as we continue, our university administration is already having conversations and putting out guidance on how to use AI within our classrooms and across campus. So I would not be terribly surprised if the no can't comes up for more reasons than just cost. Okay, add-ons. Has anybody played World of Warcraft? Know what an add-on is? Just me, that's fine. In addition to your basic book gallery, you can have lots of really fun features. Some of them are built in, some of them are third-party applications, and there's an entire list of approved third-party applications that work with Digital Commons already. Really cool stuff. The one that we've really, really loved is we added this submit info about clip. Do you know the people in this clip? Because I was not around for the Lambda Chi Alpha egg throw in the 70s, and I don't know anybody who would be in that clip, but maybe you do. So that is actually a button. It goes out to a LibWizard form, and people can put in information to tell us who are these people, what is going on in this clip, and then we can take that and make our metadata better. So crowdsource your metadata. Use your community, because they may know more than you do. And then also content warnings. All of our archival collections come with like a base content warning that, you know, these are historic materials. We try to represent them as accurately as possible, and they may contain things that we wouldn't do today or that you don't like. And for those, at the moment, we are only uploading things that need a basic content warning, so it's just on each of the landing pages and on the cover pages of like the transcripts and whatnot. But as we get into more controversial items, because like I said, this is just raw, unedited archival news footage. And so if they showed up to a murder scene, they just sat there with the camera rolling, nothing's blurred, they didn't look away, like there's all kinds of interesting stuff in there. They went down and were filming Mickey Mantle doing a duck hunt in Arkansas. Why was he in Arkansas doing a duck hunt? I don't know, but he was. And there's like this really horrifying footage of the ducks dying. And I'm like, okay. We didn't post that part of the video. Nobody needs to see that. And then also rights statements. Like I said, we fortunately have the copyright. We own the copyright. It was transferred to us when these materials were given to us. So we have like a licensing agreement if you want to use this. I'm working with our university archivist to put together a LibGuide so that people know the process to get a licensing agreement if they want to use any of this footage, because we've already had lots and lots of local inquiries about it. And again, everybody's favorite, documentation. I don't care how you document it, just do it. Whether it's just sending yourself an email so that it exists in the world. Like I said, we have that sensitive content statement that we use as an additional link on a lot of our pages so that people can just see our thinking and our process. We also talk a bit about like how we style and how we've edited our transcripts within that. We looked a lot at Baylor University and the Margaret Walker Center for Oral Histories, which is out of Jackson State University in Tennessee, because a lot of their materials were similar to our materials. And so we looked at how do they handle oral histories, what's the kind of style do they do. So that's part of our sensitive content statement, is also just how we've created these transcripts and whatnot. And then, again, just you want people who come after you to understand what are the decisions that you made and why did you make them. We also use unfortunately, we are now a Microsoft campus, so Teams for everything, right? But in Teams, there is like a project board that we use, and you can have different buckets. And so for each clip, when it's ready to be uploaded, it's in one bucket. When it's been uploaded and needs to be updated in archive space, it moves to the next bucket. If we've reviewed it and decided, oh wait, this is some shady content, it goes into a different bucket. And it's been really, really helpful to have those little cards and move them through the buckets for us, just so we can keep track of what all we're doing, because it's, there are several of us who work on this project on and off, plus a couple of student workers who are pretty dedicated to it. So documentation to know what we're doing, and then also to be able to tell our patrons or viewers what we have done and why we've done that, has all been very important to us. So thank you for listening.